The Peabody Museum is very excited about the new Seasons of Change exhibit because it takes a topic that everyone talks about, climate change, and it literally brings it home for people. We've heard so much about global climate, how the temperature is going to change and so on, that we don't know as much about, or we don't think as much about how climate is going to change and how the weather is going to change right where we live. So that's what this is about. So when people think of climate change, it can seem kind of abstract. What does it really mean to think about a changing climate? And one of the things that the exhibit helps us to understand is how the natural systems all around us are changing, whether it's the time of year that buds break on trees and the flowers come out, but also how weather systems may change. And one of the things I really like about this exhibit is rather than arguing about whether this storm or that storm has been about climate change, this is about what we might expect in the future. I think science is, in this case, much more powerful when we look forward as opposed to looking backward. So Yale actually has an interesting history in terms of the subject of climate change. Long before climate change was a news item, it was an object of scientific interest. And some of the very early ideas about climate change actually came from Yale. There was a man on the biology department faculty here at Yale between the 1920s and about 1990 named G. Evelyn Hutchinson. And Hutchinson was one of the first people to put the pieces together, understanding that all of the carbon that was being put into the atmosphere from human sources, mostly from burning fossil fuels, was going to change the atmosphere. And those changes in the atmosphere were likely to change our climate. One of the recent ways in which climate change has been in the news so much recently has been associated with these hurricanes and superstorms. And the frequent question in the media is this storm being caused by climate change? And the best analogy I've heard in response to that kind of a question is to imagine that you have a pair of dice and you're rolling these dice looking to see how often you get double sixes. And over time, somebody is progressively loading these dice so that double sixes are going to be more likely over time. So after this goes on for a while, you see the dice come up double six. Was that because the dice were loaded or not? You can roll double sixes on unloaded dice. So it seems to me it's very hard to attribute individual events at just a broad level like that to the specific cause of climate change. I think we need to look at patterns over time to see how things are going to change.